February 1876, Bear Creek, Montana Territory. Thomas McAllister stood before 4 graves in the snow. The wooden crosses leaned at angles the wind had chosen, not him. He had stopped straightening them 2 winters ago. What was the point? The dead did not care if their markers stood proud or fell. Anna McAllister, beloved wife, died in childbirth, December 1867. Jonathan McAllister, cherished son. Taken by fever,
bring my
March
daughter
1868.
before you for your
2 smaller
blessing.
crosses bore no
We
names,
accept this
just dates.
responsibility.
April
Thank you.
1869. November 1870. Babies who never drew breath. Babies he had buried with hands that shook so hard he could barely hold the shovel. 9 years. 9 years since Anna's laugh had filled their cabin. 9 years since he had felt anything except the weight of silence pressing down on his chest like a stone. Flint, they called him now. Not Thomas, not Tom. Flint. Hard. Cold. Useful only for starting fires or striking sparks, nothing more. He pulled his coat tighter against the wind that swept down from the Rockies. The sky was the color of old iron. Storm coming. Big one by the look of it. He should have been chopping wood. Should have been checking the traps he had set along Blacktail Creek. Should have been doing 100 things that needed doing before the snow came down hard and locked him in the cabin for another week. Instead, he stood here, like he did every Sunday, talking to ghosts. His right hand rested on the pistol at his hip. Colt Army revolver, 6 chambers, 5 bullets. He kept 1 chamber empty under the hammer, safety precaution. He had not bought ammunition in 3 months. Could not afford it. His last paying job had been in November, scouting for a wagon train heading west. $20 for 2 weeks of work. The money was gone now, spent on flour and coffee and lamp oil. He reached into his pocket, counted the coins by feel. $3.50. Enough for maybe another month if he was careful, if he ate once a day, if the traps caught something, if the winter was not too long, if, always if. The pistol felt heavier than it should. 1 bullet, quick, easy. Join Anna and Jonathan. Let the cabin rot. Let the graves fall. Let it all end. His finger traced the hammer. Not yet. Not today. But soon. Maybe soon. Then he heard it. A sound that did not belong to wind or snow or the creak of frozen trees. A sound that stopped his heart for 3 full seconds before it started again, racing. A child crying. Flint turned, listened. The sound came from the north, from the direction of the Yellowstone River. Faint. Almost swallowed by the wind, but real. Not his imagination, not a ghost. He moved, fast. His boots crunched through snow that came up past his ankles. The crying grew louder, desperate. The kind of crying that came from cold, from fear, from being alone in a place that would kill you if you stayed there long enough. He reached the riverbank and stopped. She was half in the water, half on the ice, a small shape in a pale blue dress that clung to her like a second skin made of frost. Her hair was black, long, frozen in strands that looked like dark glass. 1 arm reached toward the current as if she had been trying to grab something the river had already taken. Flint did not think. He waded in. The cold bit through his boots, his pants, straight into his bones. He grabbed the child under her arms and lifted. She weighed almost nothing, like lifting a bundle of sticks wrapped in wet cloth. He carried her to the bank, laid her in the snow, pressed 2 fingers to her throat, felt the pulse, faint, slow. But there. She was maybe 8 years old. Mixed blood. Crow mother, probably. White father. Her lips were blue. Her skin was gray. Her eyes moved beneath closed lids like she was dreaming or dying. He stripped off his coat, wrapped it around her, picked her up again, started running. The cabin was a 1/4 mile south. He covered the distance in minutes that felt like hours, kicked the door open. The fire had gone down to embers. He laid the child on the floor in front of the hearth and threw on every piece of wood he had cut that morning. The flames rose. Heat began to fill the small room. He peeled the wet dress off her, found blankets, 3 of them, all he had, wrapped her tight, rubbed her arms, her legs, trying to push warmth back into her body. Her breath came shallow, rattling, like something broken inside. Come on, he thought. Come on, girl. Fight. Her eyes opened. Brown eyes, dark as river stones. They stared at him without recognition, without fear, just empty, like all the light had gone out. Her lips moved. The words came out broken, barely a whisper. "Do not let the colonel take the paper," Mama said. Papa said, "The paper with the president's name." Then her eyes rolled back. She went limp. Flint checked her pulse again. Still there, stronger now. She had passed out from exhaustion, not death. He kept the blankets tight around her, kept the fire high, watched her breathe. The colonel, the paper, the president's name. He looked at the dress he had pulled off her, searched the pockets, found nothing. But something about the way she had said it, the desperation, like those words were the only thing keeping her alive. He stood, went to the window, looked out at the snow that was starting to fall again, thick flakes, heavy. The storm had arrived. Whoever this child was, whatever had happened to her, she was not going anywhere tonight. Neither was he. They were stuck here together until the weather broke. He turned back to the fire, to the small shape wrapped in blankets, to the first living thing that had been inside his cabin in 9 years besides himself. And for the first time since Anna died, Thomas McAllister felt something other than the weight of silence. He felt afraid. The child slept for 14 hours. Flint sat in the chair by the fire and watched. He did not sleep, could not. Every time her breathing changed, he tensed, waiting for it to stop, waiting to add another grave to the 4 outside. But she kept breathing. When dawn came gray and cold through the window, her eyes opened. She stared at the ceiling beams, did not move, did not speak. Flint cleared his throat. "You are safe," he said. His voice sounded strange, rusty. He had not spoken to anyone in weeks. The child turned her head slowly, looked at him. Those brown eyes took him in, measured him, decided something. "Where is my mama?" she whispered. Flint felt his chest tighten. "I do not know," he said. "I found you by the river, alone. Can you tell me your name?" "Sarah. Sarah Winters. Where are your parents, Sarah?" Her face crumpled. Tears spilled down her cheeks. He hurt them. He made them drink the bad coffee. They fell down. They would not wake up. I ran, but the ice broke. I fell in the water. It was so cold." The words came faster, broken, between sobs that shook her whole body. Flint did not know what to do, did not know how to comfort. He had forgotten how. So he just sat there, waited for the storm to pass. "Who hurt them?" he asked when she quieted. "The colonel, Colonel Blackwood. He came to our camp. Papa said no. Mama said no." The colonel smiled. "He poured something in their coffee when Mama was not looking. I saw, but I did not know. I did not know." Flint's jaw clenched. Blackwood. He knew that name. Everyone in Bear Creek knew that name. Colonel Edmund Blackwood, owner of the largest ranch in 3 counties, former cavalry officer, man who controlled half the territory's water rights and wanted the other half. "Where was your camp?" he asked. "By the willows, near the big bend in the river. Papa said we were going to see Grandpa, but we stopped, to eat, to rest." Then the colonel came. "How long ago?" 2 days, maybe 3. "I do not know. I ran, I hid, I was so cold." Flint stood, paced to the window, looked out at the snow that had piled up overnight. 2 feet deep now, maybe more. The storm had been worse than he thought. If what this child said was true, if Blackwood had murdered her parents, then she was in danger. Blackwood did not leave witnesses, did not leave loose ends. He would be looking for her, would keep looking until he found her. And if Flint tried to help her, tried to protect her, Blackwood would come for him too. He looked back at Sarah, at the small shape huddled in blankets that were too big for her, at the fear in her eyes that was trying so hard to be brave. He should take her to town, hand her over to Sheriff Garrett, let the law handle it, walk away, go back to his cabin and his ghosts and his slow march toward that one bullet waiting in the Colt. That was the smart thing to do. But when he looked at her, he did not see a stranger's child. He saw Jonathan, saw the son who had died coughing up blood while Flint held him and prayed to a God who did not answer, saw the babies who never breathed, saw Anna reaching for his hand as the life drained out of her, saw every chance he had missed, every moment he could not get back. "We need to go into town," he said. "You need a doctor, and we need to tell the sheriff what happened." Sarah's eyes went wide. "No, no, please. The colonel will find me. He will hurt me like he hurt Mama and Papa. Please do not make me go." "I will not let him hurt you," Flint heard himself say. "I promise." The words felt strange in his mouth, foreign. He had not made a promise to anyone in 9 years, had not believed in promises since the day he buried Anna. But he meant it. God help him, he meant it. Down. They left at noon when the snow stopped falling. Flint saddled his horse, a gray mare named Smoke, put Sarah in front of him, wrapped them both in every blanket he owned. The ride to Bear Creek took 2 hours through drifts that came up to Smoke's chest. Sarah did not speak the entire way, just held on to the saddle horn with both hands and shivered despite the blankets. Flint kept his eyes on the tree line, on the ridges above, looking for riders, for any sign that Blackwood's men were out searching. But the snow had covered everything. No tracks, no movement, just white silence and the creak of leather, and the mare's labored breathing. Bear Creek appeared through the trees like a painting done in gray and brown. 30 buildings clustered along a single main street: general store, saloon, sheriff's office, church, hotel. The rest were houses and shacks that clung to the hillside like desperate men hanging onto a cliff edge. Smoke's hooves made hollow sounds on the frozen mud of Main Street. A few people were out, shoveling snow, hauling wood. They stopped when they saw Flint, stared. He had not been to town in 2 months, had become a ghost story himself, the man who lived alone in the woods, the man who talked to graves. He ignored them, rode straight to the general store. A woman stood on the porch sweeping snow. She looked up when he dismounted. Her eyes went wide. "Thomas McAllister," she said. "As I live and breathe, I thought you had frozen to death out there." "Not yet, Martha," he said. "I need your help." Martha Donovan was 52 years old, a widow. Her husband had died 5 years ago, thrown from a horse, they said, broke his neck. But there were whispers that it had not been an accident, that someone had cut the saddle cinch, that someone had wanted Samuel Donovan dead because he would not sell his land, that someone was Colonel Edmund Blackwood. But no one could prove it. No one dared try. So Martha buried her husband and took over running the general store and learned to smile when Blackwood came in to buy supplies. She looked at Sarah, at the fear in the child's eyes, at the way she clung to Flint like he was the only solid thing in a world made of water. "Who is this?" Martha asked. "Her name is Sarah Winters. I found her half frozen by the river yesterday. She says Colonel Blackwood killed her parents, poisoned them. She is the only witness." Martha's face went pale. She looked up and down the street, quickly, like she expected Blackwood to materialize out of thin air. "Get inside," she hissed. "Now, before someone sees." They went in. Martha closed the door, locked it, drew the curtains. The store smelled like coffee and tobacco and the lye soap Martha made herself. Shelves lined the walls, canned goods, fabric, tools, everything a frontier town needed to survive. "Put her by the stove," Martha said. "I will make tea." Flint set Sarah down in a chair near the pot-belly stove in the corner. She looked even smaller here, even more fragile. Her hair had dried into tangled knots. Her face was still too pale. Martha brought tea in a tin cup. Sarah took it with both hands, sipped, made a face at the bitter taste, but drank anyway. "Tell me everything," Martha said to Flint. He did, kept his voice low. Told her about finding Sarah, about what the child had said, about the coffee and the colonel and the parents who would not wake up. Martha listened. Her face grew harder with each sentence. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "If what she says is true, Edmund Blackwood is a murderer. And if he is a murderer once, he is a murderer 10 times over. 20, maybe more. I need to take her to Sheriff Garrett," Flint said. "No." Martha's voice was sharp. "Absolutely not. Henry Garrett is a good man, but he's afraid of Blackwood. Everyone is. If you hand this child over to him, he will have to follow the law. And the law says a child without parents goes to the nearest relative or guardian. Blackwood will claim guardianship. He will say he was a friend of the family. He will produce papers, witnesses, whatever he needs. And then Sarah will disappear, just like the others." "What others?" Flint asked. But he already knew. Martha looked at him. "The children of the people Blackwood wanted dead. 3 in the last 5 years. All orphaned, all taken in by the colonel out of Christian charity," he said. "All died within 6 months. Accidents, he called them. Fell from a horse, drowned in the creek, caught fever, and did not recover. But everyone knows the truth. Everyone is just too afraid to say it." The room felt colder. Flint looked at Sarah. She had stopped drinking the tea, was staring at the floor, listening to every word. "What do you want me to do?" he asked Martha. "Keep her," Martha said. "Hide her. Protect her. Give me time to find proof, find witnesses, find something we can use to stop him." "I am not a family man anymore," Flint said. "I do not know how to care for a child. I can barely care for myself." "Then learn." "Earn," Martha snapped, "because if you hand her over, you are signing her death warrant. And I do not think you want another grave on your conscience." The words hit like a fist. Flint looked away, looked at the jars of pickles on the shelf, at the bags of flour stacked in the corner, at anything except Martha's eyes. Sarah spoke. Her voice was small, frightened, but steady. "I will not be trouble," she said. "I can work, I can help. I will not eat much, please. Please do not give me to the colonel. He will kill me. I know he will." Flint closed his eyes, saw Anna, saw Jonathan, saw the graves lined up in the snow, saw the one bullet waiting in the Colt. Then he saw something else, something he had not seen in 9 years. A reason. "All right," he said, "she stays with me. For now, until we figure this out." Martha let out a breath she had been holding. "Thank you, Thomas." "Do not thank me yet," he said. "Blackwood will come looking, and when he does, I will have to make a choice, her or me, and I am not sure which way that choice will go." "You will choose her," Martha said quietly, "because that is the kind of man you are, the kind of man you have always been, even if you have forgotten." Flint did not answer, did not know how. He just looked at Sarah, at the trust in her eyes that he had done nothing to earn, and he wondered if that trust would get them both killed. They stayed in town that night. Martha set them up in the back room of the store. 2 cots, a lantern, a chamber pot, supplies for a week if they needed it. Sarah fell asleep almost immediately, exhaustion finally claiming her. Flint sat in the chair by the door and watched, listened to her breathe, soft, even, alive. Around midnight there was a knock, 3 soft taps, Martha's signal. Flint opened the door a crack. Sheriff Henry Garrett stood in the alley. Tall, lean, mustache that drooped past his jaw, badge on his coat that caught the moonlight. He looked at Flint, then past him to where Sarah slept. "Martha told me," Garrett said, and I should arrest you for kidnapping. That is what the law says. That is what Blackwood will say when he finds out you have her. But you are not going to arrest me. Garrett was quiet for a moment. Then, "No, I am not. Because I remember the Hendersons, the Parkers, the Whitmore boy. I remember how they died. And I remember thinking, this is wrong. This is murder. But I had no proof, no witnesses, nothing I could take to a judge, so I did nothing. And 3 children died." He looked at Flint, met his eyes. "I will not let it happen again," Garrett said. "You keep her safe, you keep her hidden, and I will buy you time. I will tell Blackwood I am investigating. I will slow him down. But Thomas, listen to me. He is coming. He knows she is alive. He knows she saw. And he will not stop until she is dead. Or until he is." "How long do I have?" Flint asked. "A month? Maybe less. He is out of town right now. Went to Helena on business. But he will be back. And when he comes back, he will move fast. You need to be ready." "Ready for what?" "War," Garrett said simply. "Because that is what this is going to be, war. And I do not know if we can win." He turned to go, stopped, looked back. "Martha says you found something. A paper the child mentioned. Something about the president's name." "Not yet," Flint said. "But I will, tomorrow. I am going back to the river, to where she said her parents camped. If there is proof, it will be there." "Be careful," Garrett said. "Blackwood's men patrol that area. If they see you—" "I know," Flint said. Garrett nodded, disappeared into the shadows. Flint closed the door, locked it, sat back down in the chair. He did not sleep, just watched Sarah breathe, and wondered what he had gotten himself into. Dawn came cold and clear. Flint left Sarah with Martha, rode smoke north along the Yellowstone, followed the riverbank until he found the Willows, the Big Bend, the place where Sarah said they had camped. The snow had covered most of it, but he could still see signs. A circle of stones where a fire had been, the dark stain in the snow where someone had spilled coffee, or blood. He could not tell which. He dismounted, walked the perimeter, looked for anything Sarah's parents might have left behind. A pack, a bag, anything. He found them under a snowdrift near the Willows. 2 bodies, frozen solid, a man and a woman. The man's face was twisted in pain, mouth open, eyes staring at nothing. The woman was curled on her side, one arm stretched toward the man like she had been trying to reach him when she died. Flint knelt, checked for signs of how they died. No wounds, no blood, just the blue tint to their lips. The foam dried at the corners of their mouths. Poison, just like Sarah said. He searched the man's pockets, found nothing. Searched the woman, found a small leather pouch tied to her belt. Inside, a folded piece of paper. He opened it carefully. The paper was thick, official. At the top, an eagle seal stamped in wax. Below that, script writing in careful, formal hand. "Be it known that the bearer of this document, Jacob Winters, and his heirs in perpetuity, are granted full and exclusive rights to 320 acres of land along the Yellowstone River in Montana Territory, said rights to include water usage, mineral extraction, and all surface improvements, by order of Ulysses S. Grant, President of the United States, this 14th day of June, 1872. At the bottom, a signature, the President's signature. Flint stared at it. This was no ordinary land deed. This was a federal grant, the kind that could not be challenged, could not be overturned, the kind that gave the holder absolute control over one of the most valuable stretches of river in the territory. Water rights. That was what Blackwood wanted. That was why he had killed. Because whoever controlled this land controlled the water, and whoever controlled the water controlled everything. The ranches, the cattle, the settlers, everything. This piece of paper was worth a fortune. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. And Sarah Winters was the only living heir. Flint folded the paper carefully, put it inside his coat, stood, looked down at the bodies in the snow. "I will keep her safe," he said to the frozen dead. "I swear it." He turned to go, stopped. Hoofbeats, multiple horses, coming fast from the south, from the direction of town. Flint grabbed Smoke's reins, swung into the saddle, kicked her into a gallop. The trees closed around him. Branches whipped past his face. Snow exploded from Smoke's hooves. Behind him, shouts, men's voices, rough, angry. "There!" someone yelled. "By the river! Get him!" Gunfire cracked through the trees. A bullet snapped past Flint's ear. Another kicked up Snow 5 feet to his left. He leaned low over Smoke's neck, urged her faster. The mare's breath came in great gasps. Steam poured from her nostrils. The trees thinned, open ground ahead, dangerous. But no choice. Flint broke from cover. Glanced back. 4 riders, Blackwood's men, wearing long coats, carrying rifles, gaining ground. He dug his heels into Smoke's flanks. She gave everything she had, but the other horses were fresher, stronger. The gap closed. 50 yards, 40, 30. A bullet hit a tree next to Flint's head. Bark exploded. He felt splinters sting his cheek. Drew blood. 20 yards. He saw a ravine ahead. Deep, steep sides. A creek at the bottom half frozen over. No time to slow down. No time to think. Flint aimed Smoke at the edge, kicked hard. The mare gathered herself, leaped. For one endless second, they hung in the air. The ravine yawned below. The creek glittered in the morning sun. Time stopped. Then Smoke's front hooves hit the far bank, scrabbled for purchase, found it. Her back legs churned. She hauled herself up. Over. Safe. Flint looked back. The 4 riders had pulled up at the edge, stared across. One raised his rifle, aimed. Flint was already gone. Into the trees, into the shadows, into the wilderness that he knew better than any man alive. Because before he was Flint, before he was Thomas, before he was anything else, he had been a cavalry scout, the best in the territory, the man who could track a mouse through a blizzard, the man who could disappear into country that would kill anyone else. That man had been sleeping for 9 years. Now he was awake. He rode for 2 hours before he was sure he had lost them, doubled back, circled, crossed water 3 times to break his trail. When he finally stopped, Smoke was lathered and blowing. He walked her cool, let her drink from a stream, checked her legs for injuries. She was fine, tired, but fine. He sat on a rock and pulled out the land grant, read it again, memorized every word, every detail. Because this paper was the key, this was the proof that Blackwood was a murderer, that he had killed for greed, for power, for water. But it was also a target on Sarah's back. As long as she was alive, as long as she could testify, Blackwood would hunt her, would never stop hunting her unless someone stopped him first. Flint looked up at the sky, at the clouds moving fast from the west. More snow coming, always more snow. He thought about Anna, about the promises he had made to her, to love her, to protect her, to build a life together. Promises he had kept until the day he could not keep them anymore. He thought about Jonathan, about holding his son's small hand while fever burned him from the inside, about whispering, "You are going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine," knowing it was a lie. He thought about the graves, about the 2 babies who never had names, never had a chance. And he thought about Sarah, about brown eyes that were trying so hard to be brave, about a child who had lost everything, who had no one, who was depending on him to keep a promise he did not know if he could keep. But he was going to try. God help him, he was going to try. He stood, climbed back on Smoke, turned her toward town, toward Bear Creek, toward the war that was coming, whether he was ready for it or not. Because 9 years ago, Thomas McAllister had died, had crawled into a grave with his wife and son and stayed there. But maybe it was time to come back. Maybe it was time to be Flint, hard, cold, useful for more than just starting fires, useful for keeping promises, even if it killed him. He reached Martha's store after dark, tied Smoke in the alley, knocked the signal. 3 soft taps. Martha opened the door, saw his face, the blood on his cheek from the splinter, the look in his eyes. "They found you," she said. "Yes." "Did they follow you?" "No." "Good." She pulled him inside. Lock the door. Sarah is asleep upstairs. She asked for you 3 times. I told her you would come back. I am back, Flint said. He pulled out the land grant, handed it to Martha. She unfolded it, read. Her eyes went wide. Sweet Jesus, she whispered. This is it. This is why he killed them. Water rights to 320 acres. That is worth everything, Flint finished. It is worth everything. And Sarah is the heir. Martha looked up at him. Then she is in more danger than we thought. I know. What are we going to do? Flint was quiet for a moment. Then he said, We are going to fight. We are going to take this to the law, to the territorial judge. We are going to prove what Blackwood did. And we are going to make sure Sarah gets what is hers. And if Blackwood comes for her before we can do that, Flint's hand rested on the Colt at his hip. If he comes for her, I will kill him. Martha studied his face, saw something there that had not been there before, something that might have been hope or might have been rage. She could not tell which. All right, Thomas, she said. All right. But you cannot do this alone. You are going to need help. People you can trust. People who are willing to stand up to Blackwood. Do you know anyone like that? He asked. Martha smiled. It was not a kind smile. Maybe I do. There are others in this town who have lost people, who have suffered under Blackwood's heel, who are tired of being afraid. Give me 3 days. I will talk to them, quietly, carefully. We will see who is willing to fight. 3 days, Flint said. 3 days, Martha agreed. She handed the land grant back to him. Keep this safe. It is the only proof we have. If Blackwood gets his hands on it, he will not, Flint said. I promise. There was that word again, promise. He was making a lot of them lately, more than he had made in 9 years. He just hoped he could keep them. Upstairs he found Sarah sitting up in bed. She looked at him. Relief flooded her face. You came back, she said. I told you I would, I thought. I thought maybe you left, like everyone else. Flint sat down in the chair by the bed. I am not like everyone else, he said, and I am not leaving. Not until this is over. When will it be over? I do not know. But soon, one way or another. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, The colonel is a bad man. Yes, he is. Will you stop him? Flint looked at her, at the trust in her eyes. Trust he had done nothing to earn, trust that felt like a weight pressing down on his chest. I will stop him, he said, or die trying. Sarah reached out, took his hand. Her fingers were small, warm, alive. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not leaving me alone. Flint's throat tightened. He squeezed her hand gently. Get some sleep, he said. Tomorrow we start fighting back. She lay down, closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was breathing deep and steady. Flint sat there, held her hand, watched her sleep. And for the first time in 9 years, Thomas McAllister thought about tomorrow, about the future, about something other than the past. He thought about a little girl who needed him. And he thought maybe that was enough. Maybe that was more than enough. Outside, the snow began to fall again, soft, silent, covering the world in white, covering tracks, covering graves, covering everything. But inside, the fire burned warm, and 2 people who had lost everything found something neither expected, a reason to keep going, a reason to fight, a reason to hope. Even if hope was the most dangerous thing of all. 3 days passed like winter rain, slow, cold, relentless. Flint kept Sarah hidden in the back room of Martha's store. During the long hours, he taught her things she needed to know, how to load the Colt revolver without fumbling, how to read animal tracks in snow, how to move silent through a room, small skills that might save her life. Sarah learned without complaint. Her hands were quick, her memory sharp. By the 3rd evening, she could load all 6 chambers in under a minute. On the 4th morning, Martha knocked on the door. How to load a pistol, how to read tracks in snow, how to tell if someone was following you by the way Birds went quiet in the trees. She learned fast. Too fast. Like a child who knew her life might depend on it. On the fourth morning, Martha knocked on the door. When Flint opened it, she was not alone. 12 people stood in the alley behind her, men and women, young and old, faces Flint recognized from town, the blacksmith, the teacher. 3 ranchers who worked land north of Bear Creek, others he had seen but never spoken to. They all had one thing in common. They were tired of being afraid. Martha led them inside. They crowded into the back room, stood in a half circle around Flint and Sarah. No one spoke for a long moment, just looked at the child, at the man protecting her, at each other. Finally, the blacksmith spoke. His name was Robert Hayes, 60 years old, hands like iron from 30 years at the forge. My brother owned land along Blacktail Creek, Hayes said. Good land. Water rights to 3 miles of stream. 5 years ago, Colonel Blackwood offered to buy it. My brother said no. 2 weeks later, my brother was dead. Fell from his horse, they said, broke his neck, but his saddle cinch had been cut, clean, like someone used a sharp knife. I found it myself, showed it to Sheriff Garrett. He said there was no proof, no witnesses, nothing he could do. Hayes looked at Sarah, at Flint. I could not save my brother, he said, but maybe I can help save this child. What do you need from me? Time, Flint said. Time and witnesses. We need people willing to testify that Blackwood has done this before, that there is a pattern, that Sarah is not the first. And if we do nothing, she will not be the last. A woman stepped forward, narrow face, gray hair pulled back tight. Flint recognized her. Elizabeth Parker, school teacher, widow. 3 years ago, my nephew came to live with me, she said. His parents had died. Cholera, they said. But I never believed it. His father owned mineral rights to land Blackwood wanted. After they died, Blackwood claimed guardianship of the boy, said he would raise him as his own, out of Christian charity. 6 months later, my nephew drowned in the creek. 10 years old. He knew how to swim. I taught him myself. Her voice cracked. She steadied herself. I want to testify, she said. I want the world to know what he did. One by one they spoke. Each had a story. Each had lost someone. A husband, a brother, a child, a parent. All dead under circumstances that should have raised questions, but never did. Because Blackwood was powerful. Because he had money. Because he had the territorial judge in his pocket and half the law enforcement in the county on his payroll. Because people were afraid. But fear only works until someone decides they have lost enough. Until the cost of silence becomes greater than the cost of speaking. These 12 people had reached that point. When the last person finished speaking, Martha looked at Flint. We have witnesses, she said. We have testimony. We have Sarah and the land grant. What we do not have is a court that will listen. Judge Morrison answers to Blackwood. Every lawyer in 100 miles knows it. If we try to take this through normal channels, it will die before it starts. Then we do not use normal channels, Flint said. What do you mean? There is an old tradition out here, Flint said. Frontier justice. When the law fails, the people decide. We call a town meeting. We present the evidence. We let the community vote. If enough people stand with us, Morrison will have no choice but to follow through. He cannot ignore the will of an entire town, not without causing a revolt. That is dangerous, one of the ranchers said. Blackwood will not allow it. He will send his men. There will be violence. Then we prepare for violence, Flint said. We arm ourselves. We protect the witnesses. We make sure everyone who wants to speak gets the chance. And we make sure the truth comes out. All of it, no matter what it costs. The room went quiet. People looked at each other, weighing risk, weighing conscience, weighing how much more they could take before something inside them broke. Robert Hayes spoke first. I am in. Elizabeth Parker nodded. As am I. One by one they agreed. 12 people, 12 witnesses, 12 souls who decided that truth mattered more than safety. Martha looked at Flint. When do we do this?" 30 days from now, Flint said. "That gives us time to prepare, time to gather more evidence, time to make sure everyone knows what is at stake. We announce it publicly. We invite the whole territory. We make it impossible for Blackwood to stop without showing the world exactly what he is." "And if he tries to stop it anyway?" Martha asked. "Then we fight," Flint said simply. Sarah had been quiet through all of this, sitting on the cot, listening. Now she stood, walked to the center of the room, looked up at the 12 people who had agreed to risk everything. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was small, but it carried. "Thank you for being brave when nobody else would be." Elizabeth Parker knelt down, put a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "You are braver than all of us, child," she said. "You survived. You remembered. You are the reason we can fight back. Never forget that." Sarah nodded. Tears ran down her face, but she did not make a sound. The meeting broke up. People left in ones and twos. Careful not to be seen together. Careful not to draw attention. They would meet again in a week, make plans, coordinate, build something that could stand against the storm that was coming. When the last person left, Flint sat down heavily in the chair, felt the weight of what he had just set in motion pressing down on his shoulders like a physical thing. Martha brought him coffee, strong and black. He drank it in silence. "You know he is coming back soon," Martha said. "Blackwood. Sheriff Garrett sent word. The colonel left Helena 2 days ago. He will be in Bear Creek by week's end." "I know," Flint said. "And when he arrives, he will know about Sarah, about you, about all of this." "I know." Martha sat down across from him. "Are you afraid?" Flint thought about that, about fear, about the last 9 years spent being afraid of nothing because he had nothing left to lose, about how that had changed, about how now he had something to lose again. "Yes," he said, "I am afraid." "Good," Martha said. "Fear will keep you sharp, keep you careful. Just do not let it stop you." He looked at her, at the steel in her eyes, at the kind of strength that came from surviving loss and deciding to keep living anyway. "How did your husband die?" he asked. "The truth. Not the story everyone tells." Martha was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Samuel would not sell our land. We had 40 acres along the creek. Good water. Good grass. Blackwood offered us 3 times what it was worth. Samuel said no. Said it was not about money. It was about principle. About not bowing to men who thought power gave them the right to take whatever they wanted." She stared into her coffee cup. 2 weeks later, Samuel went to check the cattle. His horse came back without him. We found him at the bottom of a ravine, neck broken. The horse's saddle cinch had been cut halfway through, just enough to hold during a normal ride. But when the horse spooked, when Samuel grabbed the saddle horn for balance, it gave way. "Did you tell anyone?" "I told Sheriff Garrett. He looked at the evidence, wrote a report, filed it away. Nothing came of it. A month later, Blackwood came to my door, offered his condolences, said he understood I would need to sell the land now, that running a ranch was too much for a woman alone, offered me half what he had offered Samuel. What did you do? I told him to get off my property, told him I knew what he had done, told him I would spend the rest of my life making sure everyone else knew, too." Martha looked up, met Flint's eyes. "He smiled at me," she said. "That same smile he uses when he wants you to think he is reasonable. Told me that was a dangerous thing to say, that accidents happened to people who made accusations they could not prove. Then he left, and I have been waiting ever since, waiting for the right moment, the right weapon, the right chance to make him pay." She set down her coffee cup. "Sarah is that chance," she said. "You are that chance, and I will be damned if I let it slip away." Flint reached across the table, put his hand over hers. She looked surprised, then grateful, then something else. Something that looked like hope. "We will make him pay," Flint said. "I promise you that." There was that word again, promise. He was making too many of them, and he knew that every promise was a chain, a weight, a burden that would drag him down if he could not carry it. but he would carry it. Because the alternative was going back to being empty, being frozen, being dead inside. And he had been dead long enough. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Flint moved Sarah to his cabin, safer there than in town. Harder to find, harder to reach. He set traps around the perimeter, tripwires that would ring bells if someone approached. He taught Sarah to shoot, not just load the pistol but use it, aim, breathe, squeeze the trigger like she was squeezing water from a sponge. Gentle, controlled. She hit the target more often than she missed. In the evenings, they sat by the fire. He told her about Anna, about Jonathan, about the life he had lost. She told him about her mother, about the songs she used to sing, about how her father would carve animals from wood and give them to her as presents. They grieved together. Two people who had lost everything, finding comfort in shared pain. One night, Sarah asked him a question. "Do you think Mama and Papa are watching?" Flint looked at the fire, at the flames that danced and shifted and never stayed still. "I do not know," he said. "I like to think so. I like to think Anna is watching too, that she knows I am trying, that she understands." "Do you talk to her?" "Every day." "What do you say?" Flint was quiet for a long time. Then, "I tell her I am sorry, for not being there when she needed me, for letting her die, for giving up after she was gone. I tell her I am trying to be better, trying to be the man she thought I was." Sarah moved closer, leaned against his shoulder. "You are a good man," she said. "Mama would have liked you." Flint felt his throat tighten. He put his arm around her, held her close. And for a moment the cabin did not feel so empty. For a moment he did not feel so alone. On the 15th day, Sheriff Henry Garrett rode out to the cabin. He came alone, dismounted slow, walked to the door with his hands visible, not reaching for his gun. Flint met him on the porch, rifle in hand, not aimed, just ready. "Henry," he said. "Thomas, can we talk?" "Depends on what you want to talk about." Garrett looked tired, like he had not slept in days, lines around his eyes that had not been there before. "Blackwood is back," he said. "Rode in this morning. First thing he did was come to my office, asked if I had found the Winters girl. I told him I was still investigating. He did not believe me, but he left. For now. I told him I was still investigating, that there were no leads. He did not believe me, but he left. For now. He will not leave for long," Flint said. "I know. That is why I am here. Thomas, you need to be careful. Blackwood knows something is happening. He can feel it. He is bringing in men, hired guns. 6 of them arrived yesterday. More coming next week. He is preparing for something." "War," Flint said. "Yes. And when it comes, I do not know if I can protect you. I am one man, one badge. Against Blackwood's money and power and hired killers. The odds are not good." "I am not asking you to protect me," Flint said. "I am asking you to do your job, enforce the law, keep the peace. When we hold that town meeting, I need you to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak. That is all. And if Blackwood tries to stop it, if his men start shooting—" Garrett looked at him. "Then we will see what kind of sheriff I am, and what kind of man." He turned to go, stopped, looked back. "For what it is worth, Thomas, I am glad you are doing this. Someone needed to stand up to him. I just wish I had been brave enough to do it myself." "You are doing it now," Flint said. "That is what matters." Garrett nodded, mounted his horse, rode away into the trees. Sarah came out onto the porch. She had been listening from inside. "Is he a good man?" she asked. "I think so," Flint said. "But good men can be weak, and weakness gets people killed. Are you weak?" Flint looked down at her, at brown eyes that saw too much, understood too much. "I used to be," he said. "I am trying not to be any more." She took his hand. "You are not weak. You are the strongest person I know." He did not know what to say to that, so he just squeezed her hand, led her back inside, locked the door, checked the windows, made sure the rifle was loaded, because Sheriff Garrett was right about one thing. War was coming, and Flint intended to be ready. The war came sooner than he expected. It came on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks after he found Sarah by the river. The moon was full. The sky was clear. The kind of night where you could see for miles if you knew where to look. Flint was awake. He was always awake. Sleep had become something other people did. He sat in the chair by the window, rifle across his lap, watching the trees, watching the shadows. The bells rang at midnight. Tripwire. East side of the clearing. Someone had crossed it. Flint moved fast, grabbed Sarah, pulled her out of bed. She woke instantly. No crying, no questions, just fear that had learned to be quiet. Upstairs, he whispered, "Attic, hide like I showed you. Do not come out until I say." She nodded, climbed the ladder, disappeared into the darkness above. Flint went to the gun rack, took down the shotgun. Double barrel, loaded with buckshot, close-range weapon, the kind that did not miss. He blew out the lamp, stood in the darkness, waited. Voices outside, low, careful, men who knew what they were doing. The door exploded inward, not kicked, blown. Someone had used an axe. The wood splintered. Moonlight poured through the opening. 3 men stepped inside. Big, hard-looking, guns drawn. They spread out, searched the room. One of them spoke, voice like gravel. "We know you are in here, Drifter. We know you got the girl. Colonel wants her back. You hand her over peaceful. We let you walk away. You make this difficult, we burn this place to the ground with both of you inside." Flint stepped out from behind the door, shotgun leveled, hammers back. "Leave," he said, "now, while you still can." The 3 men turned, saw him, saw the shotgun. One of them laughed. "You gonna take all 3 of us with that? That is optimistic." "I only need 2 barrels," Flint said. "The 3rd one can run. Tell Blackwood I am not interested in his offer." The man who had laughed stopped laughing. His hand moved toward his gun. Flint pulled the first trigger. The shotgun roared. The man went down. Chest opened up, dead before he hit the floor. Flint pulled the second trigger. Another man fell, less clean, wounded, screaming. The 3rd man ran, crashed through the broken door, into the night. Gone. Flint reloaded. Fast. Hands steady despite the adrenaline, walked to the wounded man, kicked his gun away, knelt down. "How many more are coming?" he asked. The man coughed blood, smiled through red teeth. "Enough. More than you can stop. Colonel said to make an example. Said to make sure everyone knows what happens to people who protect that girl. When? Tonight. Now. They are already on their way." "How many?" The man coughed again, stopped breathing. Flint stood, looked at the 2 bodies on his floor. At the blood spreading across the wood Anna had scrubbed clean 1,000 times, at the door hanging crooked on its hinges. Then he heard it. Hoofbeats. Multiple horses, coming fast. He ran to the window, looked out, saw them. 20 riders, maybe more. Torches burning, guns out, surrounding the cabin. Too many. Way too many. "Sarah," he called, "we are leaving. Now." She dropped from the attic. He grabbed her hand, ran to the back of the cabin. The window there was small, barely big enough. He smashed it with the rifle butt, lifted Sarah through. "Run to the trees," he said. "Do not stop, do not look back. Get to town. Find Martha. Tell her what happened. What about you? I will slow them down. Give you time. Now go." She hesitated, eyes wide, terrified. "Go," he said again. "Please." She ran. Flint watched until she disappeared into the trees. Then he turned, faced the front of the cabin, the door, the 20 men outside. He had 2 shells in the shotgun, 3 rounds left in the pistol. Not enough. Not nearly enough. A knife on his belt, against 20. The smart thing would be to run, to follow Sarah, to survive. But if he ran, they would chase, would catch her, would kill her. So he did not run. He stood in the doorway, shotgun ready, and he waited for them to come. A voice called from outside, loud, commanding, "Thomas McAllister, you are surrounded. Send out the girl, and we let you live. Refuse, and we burn you out." Flint recognized the voice. One of Blackwood's ranch foremen, man named Pike. Cruel, mean, the kind who enjoyed hurting things. "She is gone," Flint shouted back. "Ran an hour ago." "You are too late." Silence. Then Pike's voice again, angrier now. "You are lying. Come in and see for yourself." More silence. Flint could hear them talking, arguing, trying to decide. Then torches flew through the broken door, through the windows. 4, 5, 6. They landed on the floor, on the furniture, on Anna's curtains. The cabin began to burn. Flint stepped outside, into the open, shotgun up. Pike and his men were mounted, forming a half-circle, blocking escape. They saw him. Some raised their guns. Pike held up a hand. "Wait, let the fire do it, let him cook." Flint fired the shotgun. Pike's horse went down. Screaming, Pike rolled clear, came up with his pistol drawn. Flint fired the second barrel. Missed. Pike was fast. Dove behind his dying horse. Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes in the darkness. Bullets cracked past Flint's head, kicked up dirt at his feet. One grazed his shoulder. Hot pain, wet blood. He drew his Colt, fired twice, methodical, aimed. One man fell from his horse. Another grabbed his arm, cursing. Another grabbed his leg, screamed. Then the cabin roof collapsed. Sparks exploded into the sky like 1,000 dying stars. Heat washed over Flint's back. Intense, blistering. He ran, not toward the horses, toward the trees, where Sarah had gone, where maybe he could lose them in the darkness. They chased. Of course they chased. 20 against 1, wounded, on foot. He made it 50 yards before they caught him. A rope settled around his shoulders, jerked tight, yanked him off his feet. He hit the ground hard. Air exploded from his lungs. Hands grabbed him, rough, violent, dragged him back toward the burning cabin, toward Pike. Pike stood over him, blood on his face from where he had hit the ground, eyes filled with rage. "Where is she?" he snarled. Flint smiled. Despite the pain, despite knowing he was about to die. "Gone," he said, "and you will never find her." Pike kicked him in the ribs, once. Twice, 3 times. Bone cracked. Flint tasted blood. "We will find her," Pike said, "and when we do, I will make her watch while I kill you. Slow. Make it last for hours." He pulled Flint to his feet, shoved him toward a tree. 2 men grabbed Flint's arms, tied them behind his back, tied the rope to the tree trunk, left him there, standing, helpless. Pike stepped back, drew his pistol, aimed it at Flint's head. "Any last words, Drifter?" Flint looked past him, at the cabin burning, at the home he had built with Anna, at the life he had lost, at the graves waiting in the snow. Then he looked at the trees, at the darkness where Sarah had disappeared, and he smiled. "She is safe," he said. "That is enough." Pike pulled the trigger. The hammer fell. Click. Empty chamber. Pike looked at his gun, confused, then angry. He opened the cylinder, checked. 5 bullets, but the one under the hammer was empty. He looked at Flint, at the smile on the broken man's face. "You are one lucky son of a—" Pike started. The gunshot cut him off. Pike's head snapped back. He dropped, dead before he hit the ground. More gunshots. From the trees, from multiple directions. Men on horses started falling, screaming, scrambling for cover. Sheriff Henry Garrett rode out of the darkness, rifle smoking, badge gleaming in the firelight. Behind him, a dozen men, armed, angry. Martha Donovan among them, shotgun in hand, face hard as stone. "Drop your weapons," Garrett shouted. "All of you, right now, or I deputize every person here and we finish this." Blackwood's men looked at each other, looked at Pike's body, looked at the odds. They dropped their guns. Garrett dismounted, walked to Flint, cut the ropes, caught him when his legs gave out. "I told you I would do my job," Garrett said. "I meant it." "How did you know?" Flint asked. "Sarah," Garrett said. She made it to town. Found Martha. They came and got me. We rode hard. Almost did not make it in time. Martha came over, looked at Flint, at the blood on his shoulder, the way he held his ribs. "You look terrible," she said. "Where is Smoke?" Flint asked suddenly. "His horse. Where is she?" "Safe," Martha said. "She bolted when the fire started. We found her a quarter-mile down the road. Not a scratch on her. She is at my stable now, fed and watered." Flint closed his eyes. Relief washed over him. At least something survived. "I feel worse," Flint replied. She smiled, then hugged him, careful of his injuries. When she pulled back, there were tears on her face. "You saved her," Martha said. "You kept your promise." Flint looked at the burning cabin, at everything he had lost. Again. "I seem to be good at losing homes," he said. "Then we will build you a new one," Martha said. "All of us, together, because that is what family does." Family. The word hurt. But it was a good hurt, the kind that meant healing, the kind that meant hope. Sarah ran out of the trees, threw herself into Flint's arms. He caught her, held her tight, ignored the pain in his ribs, in his shoulder, in his heart. "I thought they killed you," she sobbed. "They said you were dead. I am hard to kill," Flint said. His voice was rough with pain. "And I made you a promise. I keep my promises." There it was again. Promise. He had made so many of them, and broken so many more. But this one he would keep, no matter what it cost. They arrested 14 of Blackwood's men that night. The rest had scattered, run, disappeared into the territory. Wanted men now, hunted, but the colonel himself was not among them. He had not come to the cabin. Had sent his men to do his killing for him, like he always did. In the morning, Garrett sent word to the territorial capital, told them what had happened, asked for a federal marshal, asked for help. Help came in the form of a telegram. Judge Morrison had been removed from his position, under investigation for corruption. A new judge was being appointed. Circuit Court would convene in Bear Creek in 2 weeks. All evidence and witnesses should be ready to testify. The tide was turning. But Blackwood was not finished. Not yet. 3 days after the cabin burned, a man rode into town, young, mid-20s, dark hair, eyes that would not meet anyone's gaze. He went straight to Martha's store, asked for Thomas McAllister. Flint came down from the room where he had been recovering, ribs taped, shoulder bandaged. Still moving like an old man. He looked at the stranger. Recognition flickered. Something about the eyes, the shape of the jaw. "You are Samuel Winters," Flint said. "Sarah's brother." The man nodded, looked ashamed. "Can we talk? Somewhere private?" They went to the back room. Sarah was there, reading a book Martha had given her. When she saw Samuel, her face went white. "You," she whispered. "You were there, at the camp. You were with the colonel." Samuel flinched like she had hit him. "Yes," he said. "I was there, and I am sorry. Sorrier than you can ever know." Flint stepped between them, protective. "Talk fast," he said, "before I throw you out." Samuel took a breath, steadied himself. "I owe Blackwood money," he said. $800, gambling debts. He said he would forgive it all if I helped him, if I convinced Father to sell the land. I tried. Father refused. So Blackwood said there was another way, said he just needed to talk to them, convince them. I believed him. God help me, I believed him. His voice broke. "I brought him to the camp," Samuel continued, "introduced him to Mother and Father like he was a friend, watched him drink coffee with them, watched him smile and talk about the weather and the price of cattle. Then I left. Blackwood told me to go into town, buy supplies, give him time to negotiate. When I came back, they were dead, both of them, and Sarah was gone. Blackwood told me they had gotten sick, sudden, tragic. He said Sarah had run away in grief, that we would find her, bring her home safe." Samuel looked at Sarah, at the hatred in her eyes. "But then I heard things," he said, "heard people talking about other deaths, other families, other children who disappeared." And I realized what I had done, what I had helped him do. Flint's hand rested on his pistol. "So why are you here now?" Samuel reached into his coat, slowly, pulled out a folded paper, handed it to Flint. It was a ledger. Blackwood's personal accounts, payments made, debts collected, and in the margins, notes, coded. But clear enough if you knew what you were looking for. Payment to J. Winters for assistance, $800. Payment to H. Mills for false witness, $50. Payment to Pike and Associates for disposal, $300. Page after page, name after name, crime after crime, all in Blackwood's handwriting, all signed with his initials. "Where did you get this?" Flint asked. "I broke into his office last night," Samuel said. "Took it from his safe. He will know it is missing by now. He will know it was me. I am a dead man. But maybe this will help you stop him. Maybe this will save my sister. Maybe it will be enough to make up for what I did." "It will not," Sarah said. Her voice was cold, hard. "Nothing can make up for killing Mama and Papa." Samuel nodded. "I know. But I can try. I can testify. I can tell the court everything. And when it is over, when Blackwood is in prison or dead, you can decide what to do with me. Whatever you choose, I will accept." He looked at Flint. "I am asking you to protect her, the way I should have, the way I failed to." Flint studied him, saw the guilt, the shame, the desperate need for redemption. He knew that feeling, knew it better than anyone. "You can stay," Flint said, "but you do exactly what I tell you. You do not leave town. You do not talk to anyone except me, Martha, or Sheriff Garrett. And if you betray us, if you put Sarah in danger even once, I will kill you myself. Understood?" "Understood," Samuel said. Sarah stood, walked to the door, stopped, looked back at her brother. "I do not forgive you," she said. "I do not know if I ever will. But Mama always said family was family, even when they hurt you, so you can stay. For now." She left, slammed the door. Samuel sat down heavily, put his head in his hands. "She has every right to hate me," he said. "Yes," Flint agreed. "She does. But hate can change. Given time, given proof. You want her forgiveness? Earn it. Fight for her. Die for her if you have to. That is the only way." Samuel looked up. "I will. I swear it." "Good," Flint said. "Because war is coming, and we need every soldier we can get." He handed the ledger back. "Keep this safe. Hide it. We show it to no one until the court convenes. That is our insurance. Our proof. Our weapon." Samuel nodded, took the ledger, left. Flint sat alone in the quiet, thought about redemption, about second chances, about whether people could change or if they were locked into being who they had always been. He looked at his hands, scarred, calloused, hands that had held Anna, had buried Jonathan, had killed 2 men 3 nights ago, had held Sarah while she cried, hands that had built and destroyed, and now were trying to build again. Maybe people could change. Maybe he was proof. Or maybe he was just fooling himself. Time would tell. It always did. The next 10 days passed in a strange kind of peace, the calm before the storm. Everyone knew it was coming. Everyone prepared. Martha organized the witnesses, made sure their stories were clear, consistent, true, no embellishment, no exaggeration, just facts, cold and hard and undeniable. Sheriff Garrett worked with the new territorial prosecutor, a young man from the capital named William Chase, idealistic, hungry, determined to make a name for himself by bringing down Blackwood. Flint stayed close to Sarah, taught her to read better, to write her name in clear letters, told her stories about Anna, about growing up in Ohio before the war, about choosing to come west because the frontier felt like freedom. She listened, asked questions. Slowly the fear in her eyes began to fade, replaced by something else, something that looked like trust. One evening she asked him a question. "When this is over, what happens to me?" Flint looked at her. At brown eyes that reminded him so much of Jonathan, it hurt. "What do you want to happen?" he asked. She was quiet for a long time. Then, "I want to stay with you, if that is allowed, if you want me." Flint's throat tightened. "I want you," he said, "more than anything. But Sarah, I do not have a home anymore. No cabin, no land, just debts and bad memories." "We can build a home," she said, "together. Like Martha said, family builds things together." Family. There was that word again. He had lost one family, buried them in the snow, thought he would never have another. But maybe he was wrong. Maybe family was not just blood, not just marriage, not just biology. Maybe family was choice, was love, was standing beside someone when the world tried to tear them apart. "Then we will build a home," Flint said. "You and me. When this is done, we will find land, build a cabin, start over. Promise?" Sarah asked. Flint smiled. "Despite everything. Despite the pain and the fear and the uncertainty." "Promise," he said. And he meant it. Every word. On the 14th day, Colonel Edmund Blackwood came to town. He rode in at noon, alone. No hired guns, no foreman, just him, dressed in a black suit, black hat, sitting tall in the saddle like a man who owned the world. He tied his horse outside the saloon, walked inside, ordered whiskey, stood at the bar and drank it slow. Word spread fast. The colonel was back. The colonel was here. People stayed inside, locked their doors, watched from windows. Flint heard about it from Martha. She came to the room where he and Sarah were staying, face pale. "He is at the saloon," she said, "just standing there, waiting." "Waiting for what?" Flint asked. "You," Martha said. "He knows you have Sarah. He knows about the testimony, about the ledger, about the court tomorrow. He is making a statement, showing he is not afraid." "Good," Flint said. "Neither am I." "Thomas, do not." Martha grabbed his arm. "That is what he wants. He wants you angry, wants you to confront him. Make a mistake. Give him an excuse to kill you and claim self-defense. Then I will not give him the excuse." He stood, checked his pistol. 5 rounds, 1 empty chamber under the hammer. Same as always. "Stay here," he told Sarah. "Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone except me or Martha." Sarah nodded, fear back in her eyes. Flint walked out, down the stairs, into the street. The town was empty, like everyone had vanished. But he could feel them, watching, waiting, seeing what would happen when 2 men who hated each other finally came face to face. He walked to the saloon, pushed through the doors. Blackwood stood at the bar, turned when Flint entered, smiled. The kind of smile a snake gives a mouse. "Mr. McAllister," Blackwood said, "I have heard so much about you. The hero, the protector, the broken man trying to put himself back together." Flint stopped 10 feet away. Close enough to see, far enough to react. "Colonel," he said, "I would say it is a pleasure, but we both know that would be a lie." Blackwood laughed. "Direct. I like that. No pretense. So, I will be direct too. You have something that belongs to me. I want it back. She does not belong to you. She never did. The girl's father owed me money. Her grandfather owed me respect. They refused to pay either debt. So I collected in other ways. That is business. Murder is not business," Flint said. "It is evil." Blackwood's smile never wavered. "Evil is a word weak men use when they do not understand power. I understand power. I use it. And I will use it again if I have to. Against you, against the girl, against anyone who stands in my way." "Then you will have to use it tomorrow," Flint said. "In court, in front of the whole territory. We will see how your power holds up against the truth." Blackwood set down his glass, stepped away from the bar. "The truth is whatever people believe," he said. "And people believe what I tell them to believe, because I own them. Their land, their water, their future. You think a few witnesses will change that? You think the word of grieving widows and desperate ranchers will stand against mine?" "Yes," Flint said, "I do." "Then you are a fool." "Maybe," Flint agreed, "but I would rather be a fool who fought than a coward who ran." Then Sheriff Garrett walked in, badge gleaming, rifle in hand. But Blackwood was faster than Flint expected. His hand came out of his coat, not with a gun, with a knife, long, thin, the kind meant for gutting deer. He lunged. Flint twisted. The blade sliced across his ribs, shallow, but it burned like fire. He grabbed Blackwood's wrist. They crashed into the bar. Glasses shattered. The bartender dove for cover. "Stop!" Garrett shouted. "Both of you!" Blackwood drove his knee into Flint's wounded ribs, the ones Pike had cracked. Pain exploded white behind Flint's eyes. He lost his grip. Blackwood spun, knife raised, aimed for Flint's throat. A gunshot. The knife flew from Blackwood's hand. He screamed, clutched his bleeding fingers. Garrett stood with his rifle smoking. "Next shot goes in your chest, Colonel. Step back, now." Blackwood stepped back, his face twisted with rage. "You are all dead men," he hissed. "All of you. I will see you hang for this." "The only one hanging will be you," Garrett said. "And if you threaten these people one more time, I will shoot you where you stand and call it self-defense. Clear?" Blackwood said nothing, just glared. Blood dripped from his hand onto the saloon floor. "Get out," Garrett said. "Go back to your ranch, and pray the judge is merciful, because I will not be." Blackwood turned, walked toward the door. His wounded hand pressed against his coat. Blood seeped through the fabric. He stopped at the threshold, looked back at Flint one last time. "Until tomorrow, Mr. McAllister," he said quietly. "We will finish this in court." Then he was gone, out the door, into the street, onto his horse, riding away. Flint let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. Garrett walked over, looked at the blood on the floor, at the broken glasses, at the knife lying near the bar. "He came here to kill you," Garrett said. "Not tomorrow. Today. If I had been 1 minute later, you would be dead." "But you were not," Flint said. Garrett shook his head. "Go home, Thomas. Rest. Tomorrow is going to be the longest day of your life. You need to be sharp." Flint nodded, walked back to Martha's, climbed the stairs, found Sarah waiting. She ran to him, hugged him tight. "You came back," she said. "Always," he replied. "I will always come back." That night he did not sleep, just sat by the window, watched the street, watched for movement, for danger. Tomorrow the truth would come out. Tomorrow justice would be served. Or tomorrow everything would fall apart. He did not know which, but he knew one thing. He would fight. For Sarah, for Martha, for Samuel trying to redeem himself, for Robert Hayes and Elizabeth Parker and all the others who had lost people to Blackwood's greed, for Anna and Jonathan and the life he had lost. And maybe, just maybe, for the life he might still build, if he survived, if they all survived. Tomorrow would tell. The morning came gray and cold. February 16th, 1876, a date that would be remembered in Bear Creek for generations. The day the people decided they had been silent long enough. Flint woke before dawn. He had not really slept, just dozed in the chair by the window, body exhausted, mind racing. Sarah slept on the cot, peaceful, trusting. The kind of sleep only children could achieve when they believed someone was watching over them. He stood, stretched, felt his ribs protest. The shoulder wound pulled tight. 3 weeks since the cabin burned. 3 weeks of healing. Not enough. But it would have to be. Martha brought coffee, strong and bitter. She looked tired too. None of them had slept much. "The barn is ready," she said. 200 chairs. Standing room for another 100. People have been arriving since yesterday, from all over the territory. They want to see this, want to witness it. "How many of Blackwood's men?" Flint asked. Sheriff Garrett counted 30 yesterday evening. More came in overnight. Maybe 40 now, all armed, all loyal to the colonel. "And our side?" Martha smiled, thin, hard. 73, ranchers, shopkeepers, miners, farmers, people who are tired of being afraid. They are not soldiers, but they are angry. And anger makes men brave. "Or dead," Flint said. "Sometimes both," Martha agreed. But if we do not stand now, we never will, and I would rather die standing than live on my knees." She handed him a clean shirt, one that had belonged to her husband. It fit well enough. Flint put it on, strapped on his gun belt. Checked the Colt. 5 rounds. 1 empty chamber. He had not bought more ammunition, could not afford it. 5 bullets would have to be enough. Sarah woke, rubbed her eyes, looked at Flint, at Martha, at the tension in the room. "Is it today?" she asked. "Yes," Flint said. "Today we tell the truth. Today we make him answer for what he did." "Will they believe me?" "They will believe you because you are telling the truth, and the truth has power, even against men like Blackwood." Sarah got dressed, put on the new dress Martha had made for her. Blue calico, simple but clean. Her hair was brushed and braided. She looked like what she was, a child, small, vulnerable, innocent. A child who had seen too much. A child who carried scars no one could see. They walked to the barn together, the 3 of them, through streets that were packed with people. Faces Flint recognized, faces he did not. All of them quiet, watching, waiting to see what would happen. The barn stood at the north end of town. Big, solid, built to hold cattle during winter storms. Now it held something more dangerous. Hope and rage and the promise of justice. Inside, chairs were arranged in rows. A table at the front for the judge, another table for witnesses, space in the center for those who would testify. Lanterns hung from the rafters, the smell of hay and animals and too many bodies in too small a space. Sheriff Garrett stood by the door, checking people as they entered, making sure no one brought weapons inside except his deputies. 6 men wearing tin stars. Good men. Brave men. Men who had decided the law mattered more than fear. Reverend Joshua Klein waited at the front. Tall, gray beard. Eyes that had seen suffering and learned compassion. He would moderate. Keep order. Make sure everyone got a chance to speak. Flint found seats near the front. Put Sarah between him and Martha. Protective. Ready. People filled the barn. Every chair taken. Standing room packed. The air grew warm despite the cold outside. Breath misting. Voices low. Nervous. At 9 o'clock the doors opened again. Colonel Edmund Blackwood entered. He walked alone. No hired guns. No foreman. Just him. Dressed in a black suit. White shirt. String tie. Clean-shaven. Hair slicked back. Looking like a prosperous businessman. A pillar of the community. A man who had nothing to hide. Behind him came his lawyer, a man from Helena. Expensive suit, leather case, face like a predator sizing up prey. They took seats on the left side of the barn. Blackwood sat straight, calm, confident. He looked around the room, met eyes, smiled. The smile of a man who knew he had already won. Then his gaze found Flint, found Sarah. The smile widened. Flint felt Sarah tense, felt her small hand grip his. He squeezed back, gentle, reassuring. "It will be all right," he whispered. "I promise." That word again, promise. The weight of it pressed down on his shoulders like a physical thing. At 9:15 the judge arrived, Judge Harold Whitman, 60 years old, appointed by the territorial governor to replace Morrison, a man with a reputation for fairness, for integrity, for not being bought. He walked to the front table. Saturday. Arranged papers. Looked out at the crowd. "This proceeding is now in session," he said. His voice carried, strong, clear. "We are here to hear testimony regarding the deaths of Jacob and Mary Winters, and to determine guardianship of their daughter, Sarah Winters. Reverend Klein will moderate. All testimony will be heard. All evidence will be examined. And when we are finished, the people of this community will vote. Their decision will be final." He looked at Blackwood, then at Flint. "Gentlemen," he said, "this is not a court of law. This is a court of community, of conscience. Let us proceed with honesty and respect. Are we clear? Both men nodded. Then let us begin. Reverend Klein stood, called the first witness. Thomas McAllister, he said. Please come forward. Flint stood, walked to the center, faced the crowd. 200 faces staring back. Some he knew, most he did not. All of them waiting. Mr. McAllister, Klein said, tell us what happened. Start from the beginning. Flint told them everything. Finding Sarah by the river, half frozen, half dead. The words she whispered. The search for her parents. The bodies in the snow. The land grant with the president's seal. The attacks. The cabin burning. The men who came to kill them both. He spoke clearly, simply. No embellishment. Just facts. When he finished, Klein nodded. Thank you. Colonel Blackwood, do you wish to question this witness? Blackwood's lawyer stood, smiled, oil smooth. Mr. McAllister, he said, you claim to have found this child by chance, is that correct? Yes. And you claim she told you my client murdered her parents. That is what she said. Yes, but you have no proof of this, no witnesses, nothing except the word of a traumatized child. I have her parents' bodies, Flint said, frozen in the snow, mouths foaming, skin blue. The signs of poison are clear. Signs you claim are poison, but could just as easily be illness, cholera, typhoid, any number of diseases. I also have this, Flint said. He pulled out the land grant, unfolded it, held it up for everyone to see. This is a federal grant, he said, signed by President Grant, giving Jacob Winters and his heirs permanent rights to 320 acres, including water rights to the Yellowstone, the most valuable land in the territory, the land Colonel Blackwood wanted, the land he killed to get. The barn erupted, voices shouting, some in support, some in anger. Judge Whitman banged his gavel. Order, he commanded. Order, or I will clear this room. The noise died down. The lawyer smiled, unruffled. A piece of paper means nothing, he said. It does not prove murder. It proves only that a land grant existed. My client has his own documents, a will, a deed of sale, both legal, both witnessed, both proving that Jacob Winters voluntarily sold this land to Colonel Blackwood before his death. That will is a forgery, Flint said. You have proof of that? Yes, Flint said, I do. He looked at Klein, nodded. Klein called the next witness. Dr. William Harper, please come forward. The old physician stood, walked to the center, held a folder of papers. Dr. Harper, Klein said, you examined the will presented by Colonel Blackwood. What did you find? I am not a doctor of medicine alone, Harper said. I also studied chemistry, metallurgy, the science of inks and papers. I examined the will in question, the signature purporting to be Jacob Winters, and I found several inconsistencies. He opened the folder, pulled out the will, pointed. The ink is too fresh, he said. This will is dated 1873, 3 years ago, but the ink has not aged. It has not faded. It has not oxidized the way iron gall ink does over time. This signature was written within the last 6 months, not 3 years ago. He pointed to another detail. The paper is wrong. This is modern paper, produced after 1874. You can tell by the watermark, the mill stamp. Jacob Winters could not have signed this in 1873 because this paper did not exist yet. Murmurs ran through the crowd, louder now, angry. The lawyer stood. This is speculation, not fact. Paper can be preserved. Ink can be stored in ways that prevent aging. Then explain the handwriting, Harper said. He pulled out another document, a letter written by Jacob Winters 2 years ago, compared it to the signature on the will. Different, he said. Completely different. The slant, the pressure, the formation of letters, these were not written by the same hand. The lawyer opened his mouth, closed it, sat down. Klein called the next witness, Elizabeth Parker. The schoolteacher stood, walked forward, faced the crowd. Tell us your story, Klein said. Elizabeth told them, about her nephew, about his parents dying, about Blackwood taking guardianship, about the boy drowning 6 months later in a creek he knew how to swim. When she finished, there were tears on her face, but her voice never wavered. Blackwood's lawyer did not question her. Could not. Her pain was too real, too raw. To challenge it would turn the crowd against him completely. Klein called the next witness, and the next, and the next. Robert Hayes, the blacksmith, his brother dead from a cut saddle cinch. Margaret Wilson, her husband dead from poison. Same symptoms as the Winters. Daniel Cross, his father dead from a fall, after refusing to sell water rights. One by one they came. 12 witnesses, 12 stories, 12 deaths that followed the same pattern. Refusing to sell, dying mysteriously. Blackwood claiming the land afterward. By noon the barn was silent, the weight of testimony pressing down like a great hand. Klein looked at Blackwood. "Colonel," he said, "do you wish to present your defense?" Blackwood stood, walked to the center, looked at the crowd, at the faces staring back, some with hatred, some with fear, all with judgment. He smiled, that same smooth smile, confident, unshaken. "These are lies," he said, "fabrications by desperate people who want someone to blame for their losses. I am a businessman. I buy land. I make deals. I am successful. And success breeds jealousy, breeds resentment. These people would rather believe conspiracy than accept the simple truth. That life on the frontier is hard, that people die, that tragedy happens." He looked at Sarah. "As for this child," he said, "I knew her parents, good people. They died of illness, sudden, tragic. I offered to take care of their daughter out of Christian duty, out of compassion. And this man," he pointed at Flint, "this stranger, this drifter with no family and no future, he kidnapped her, filled her head with lies, used her to attack me, to try to steal land that is legally mine." Sarah stood. Her chair scraped loud in the silence. "You killed them," she said. Her voice shook but carried. "I saw you. I saw you put the powder in the coffee. I saw Mama and Papa fall. I saw them die. You are a liar. You are a murderer, and everyone here knows it." Blackwood's smile never faltered. "The mind of a child," he said, "traumatized, confused. She does not know what she saw. She only knows what she has been told." "I know what I saw," Sarah shouted, "and I will never forget. Never." Judge Whitman stood. "Enough. We have heard testimony from both sides. We have seen evidence. Now the people will decide. All those who believe Colonel Blackwood is guilty of these crimes, stand." For a moment no one moved. Then Robert Hayes stood, slow, deliberate. Elizabeth Parker stood. Martha Donovan stood, 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 10, 20, 50, 100. The barn filled with standing people, a forest of bodies, a wall of judgment. Only a handful remained seated. Blackwood's men, his employees, those who owed him money. Judge Whitman looked at the crowd, counted, nodded. "The people have spoken," he said. "Colonel Edmund Blackwood, you are found guilty by community verdict. You will be remanded to territorial custody to await trial for murder." "Sheriff Garrett, take him." Blackwood's face went red, then white. His hands balled into fists. "This is not legal," he said. "You cannot do this. I have rights. I have lawyers. I have power." "You have nothing," Garrett said. He walked forward. "Handcuffs ready. Turn around. Hands behind your back." Blackwood looked at the door, at his men scattered through the crowd, at the exits. Garrett saw the look. "Do not," he said, "do not make this worse." For a moment Flint thought Blackwood would run, would fight, would go down swinging. But the colonel was not a fighter. He was a manipulator, a schemer, a man who used others to do his violence, and now he had no one left. He turned around, put his hands behind his back, let Garrett cuff him. As they led him toward the door, he looked at Flint, at Sarah. "This is not over," he said. I have friends, I have influence. I will be free within a month. And when I am, I will finish what I started. Then he was gone, out the door, into the wagon that would take him to the territorial prison in Helena. The barn erupted, cheering, crying, people hugging, celebrating. Justice had been served. The monster had been caught. But Flint did not celebrate, did not cheer, because he knew men like Blackwood, knew they did not go quietly, did not accept defeat. Even from behind bars, the colonel could reach out, could hire men, could make arrangements. Sarah was still in danger, would be in danger until Blackwood was dead, or until Flint was. That night, Martha threw a celebration at her store. Food, drink, music, the whole town came. Laughter filled the streets. For the first time in years, Bear Creek felt alive, felt hopeful. Flint stood outside, watched through the window. Sarah was inside, dancing with Elizabeth Parker, smiling, actually smiling. The fear had not left her eyes, probably never would, but it had lessened, softened. She was healing. Sheriff Garrett joined him, offered a flask. Flint took it, drank whiskey. Good whiskey, burned going down. You did it, Garrett said. You actually did it. We did it, Flint corrected. All of us, but you started it. You stood up when no one else would. That takes courage. Or stupidity, Flint said. Garrett laughed. Sometimes they are the same thing. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the celebration. Then Garrett spoke again, his voice quieter, serious. He will not stay in prison, you know. Men like Blackwood never do. He has money, connections. He will bribe a guard, hire a lawyer, find a way out. And when he does, he will come for you, for Sarah, for everyone who testified against him. I know, Flint said. What will you do? What I have been doing. Protect her, keep her safe, build a life worth protecting. That might not be enough. Then I will do more. Garrett looked at him. In the lamplight from the window, Flint's face was hard, determined, the face of a man who had made a promise and intended to keep it. You have changed, Garrett said. 3 weeks ago you were a ghost. Now you are alive again. What happened? Flint looked through the window, at Sarah dancing, at the joy on her face. I remembered what I was living for, he said. 3 days later, a rider came from Helena, not a telegram, a man. He wore a U.S. Marshal badge. Marshal Daniels, he introduced himself. I have news about Colonel Blackwood. He is dead, Garrett said. We heard. The marshal shook his head. He tried to escape. Killed a guard. Made it 3 miles before we caught him. He pulled a derringer, fired at my deputy. We had no choice. He opened a leather case. Inside, a blood-stained ledger. Bigger than the one Samuel had stolen. Older. We found this in his cell, the marshal said. Hidden in the mattress. It goes back 15 years, 23 murders, all documented, all for land and water. Your testimonies were right. He killed them all. Flint stared at the ledger. 23. Not just the 12 they knew about. 23 families destroyed. Sarah was the only one who got away, he said quietly. Sarah stood frozen, staring at the blood-stained ledger in the marshal's hands. Her face had gone white. 23, she whispered. Her voice cracked. 23 families like mine? The marshal nodded grimly. 23 that we know of. There may be more. Sarah's knees buckled. Flint moved fast, caught her before she fell. She grabbed his shirt, held on like she was drowning. All those children, she gasped. Her breath came in short, sharp bursts. All those mothers and fathers, gone. Because of him, because nobody stopped him. Tears ran down her face, not quiet tears, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. We stopped him now, Flint said. His own voice was thick. We stopped him, Sarah. And those 23 families, they did not die for nothing. Their stories are in this ledger. The world will know. But they are still dead, Sarah cried. They are still gone. And I got away. Why did I get away? Why me and not them? Flint had no answer, so he just held her. Let her grieve, not just for her parents anymore, but for all of them, all 23 families that Blackwood had destroyed. Martha moved closer, put her hand on Sarah's back, said nothing, just stayed there. The marshal cleared his throat, looked away. "I will file my report with the territorial court," he said quietly. "These murders will be on the official record, every single one. The families will be named, remembered." He left. Garrett showed him out. Sarah's sobs gradually quieted. She stayed pressed against Flint's chest, breathing. "I am sorry," she whispered finally. "I should be stronger." "You are the strongest person I know," Flint said. "Crying does not make you weak. It makes you human." Outside, the sun was setting over Bear Creek, and somewhere in Helena, in an unmarked grave, Colonel Edmund Blackwood was already being forgotten. But the 23 families he destroyed would be remembered. Sarah would make sure of that. He had been found in his cell, hanging from a bedsheet tied to the bars. Suicide, the warden said. The guilt had eaten him alive. But there were whispers. Other prisoners had heard arguing, had heard another voice in Blackwood's cell the night he died, a voice that did not belong to the colonel. Some said it was one of his own men, come to silence him before he could talk, before he could implicate others in his schemes. Some said it was a prisoner he had wronged, taking revenge. Some said it was justice, plain and simple, the kind that did not wait for trials and appeals. Flint did not care which story was true. Blackwood was dead. That was what mattered. Sarah was safe. The threat was gone. He could breathe again. "Donkey!" That same week, Samuel Winters came to see him. The young man looked different, thinner, older, like guilt had carved years into his face. "I am leaving," Samuel said. "Going west, California maybe, or Oregon. Somewhere I can start over. Somewhere people do not know what I did." "What about Sarah?" Flint asked. "She is better off without me. She made that clear. I do not blame her. I would hate me too." He pulled something from his pocket, a deed, the land grant that had started everything. "This belongs to her," Samuel said. 320 acres, water rights, everything. I signed it over. Legal. Witnessed. She is the sole owner now. When she turns 18, she can do with it what she wants. Sell it, keep it, whatever." He handed the deed to Flint. "You take care of her," Samuel said. "You be the family I could not be. And maybe someday she will forgive me. But if she does not, I understand." Flint took the deed, looked at it, at the president's signature, at the seal that made it official. "You could stay," he said. "You could help us build something on this land, help us make it into what her parents wanted." Samuel shook his head. "I appreciate that, but no. Some mistakes you cannot fix by staying. Some you fix by leaving, by letting the people you hurt heal without you being a reminder." He held out his hand. Flint shook it. "Goodbye, Thomas," Samuel said. "Take care of my sister. She deserves better than what this world has given her." "I will," Flint said. "I promise." Samuel left, rode out of town heading west. Flint never saw him again, but years later he heard stories about a man in Oregon who built a school for orphans, who dedicated his life to helping children no one else wanted, who never married, never had a family of his own, just spent every day trying to make up for the family he had betrayed. Flint hoped the stories were true, hoped Samuel had found his own kind of redemption. Spring came to Montana in April, slow, tentative, like the land was afraid to trust the warmth. Flint bought 80 acres adjacent to Sarah's land, used money Martha loaned him. He rode Smoke out to survey the property. The mare was older now, slower, but still strong, still faithful. Used money Martha loaned him, good land, creek running through it, trees, grass, room for cattle, room for horses, room for a life. They built a cabin together. Flint, Sarah, Martha, Robert Hayes, Elizabeth Parker, a dozen others. The community that had stood up to Blackwood now stood together to build something new. The cabin was simple. 2 rooms, a loft, fireplace, nothing fancy, but it was solid, strong, built to last. On the first night, Flint and Sarah sat by the fire. Their fire, in their home. Sarah looked around, at the walls they had raised, and at the roof that would keep them dry, and at the space that was theirs. "This is nice," she said, "better than I imagined." "It is a start," Flint said. "We will add on as we go, maybe a barn next year, some livestock. Make it a real ranch. Will we stay here forever?" Flint thought about that. About forever, about promises, about the future he had stopped believing in. "As long as you want," he said. "This is your land, your legacy. I am just taking care of it until you are old enough to decide what to do with it." Sarah moved closer, leaned against his shoulder. "I already decided," she said. "I want to stay here, with you, build a ranch, raise horses like Mama wanted. And when I am grown, I want to help other kids like me, kids who lost everything, give them a place to belong." Flint felt his throat tighten. "That is a good dream," he said. "Will you help me?" she asked. "Every day," he said, "for as long as I am able. Promise?" He smiled, despite the weight of the word, despite knowing that promises were chains, burdens, responsibilities. "Promise," he said. Sarah fell asleep against his shoulder. Warm, safe, home. Flint stayed awake, watched the fire, thought about Anna, about Jonathan, about the family he had lost, and about the family he had found. Different, unexpected. Not what he had planned, but maybe better. Maybe exactly what he needed. He looked at the wall, at the space above the fireplace. Tomorrow he would hang something there, a picture maybe, or a cross, or just the words that had become his creed. Keep your promises, protect the weak, build something that lasts. Simple rules, hard to follow, but worth the effort, because that was what made a life worth living. Not success, not wealth, not power, just love and duty, and standing up when others fell. 6 months passed. Summer turned to fall, fall to winter. The cycle continued, relentless, beautiful, harsh. Flint and Sarah worked the land, cleared fields, built fences, bought 3 horses, 2 cows, some chickens, started small, like you had to, on the frontier. Martha visited every week, brought supplies, news from town, gossip. She had become family too, the grandmother Sarah never had, the friend Flint needed. Sheriff Garrett stopped by monthly, checked on them, made sure they were safe. The threat was gone, but old habits died hard. In November, a letter came from the territorial governor, thanking Flint for his service, for standing up to corruption, for helping bring Blackwood to justice. The letter included a reward, $500, for information leading to the conviction of a criminal. Flint stared at the money, more than he had seen in 10 years, more than he knew what to do with. He showed it to Sarah. "What should we do with it?" he asked. She thought for a moment. Then, "Give it to the others, the people who testified. They lost more than we did. They deserve it more. Are you sure?" Sarah nodded. "Mama always said money was just metal. What mattered was what you did with it. If we use it to help people, it becomes something good. If we keep it just to have it, it is just metal." Flint smiled. "Your mama was a wise woman. They divided the money, gave it to the 12 witnesses. $50 each. Not much, but enough to repair a barn, buy seed for spring, feed a family through winter." The gifts were anonymous, but everyone knew who they came from, and the bonds of community grew stronger. December came, the anniversary of Anna's death. 9 years. Flint rode to the old site, where his first cabin had stood, where Anna and Jonathan were buried. The graves were still there, covered in snow, the crosses leaning, weather-worn. He dismounted, stood before them, like he had done so many times before, but this time was different. He was not empty, not frozen, not dead inside. He was alive, healing, building something new. "Anna," he said, "I hope you can hear me. I hope you know I have not forgotten you, that I never will. You were my first love, my first family, the reason I learned what it meant to care about someone more than myself." The wind blew, cold, sharp, carrying his words away. "I met someone," he continued, "a little girl, 8 years old. She needed help. I tried to walk away, tried to stay frozen, but I could not. She reminded me of Jonathan, of you, of everything I lost." He knelt, put his hand on Anna's grave. "I am taking care of her," he said, "like I should have taken care of you, like I should have taken care of Jonathan. I know I cannot bring you back, cannot undo the past. But maybe I can honor your memory by protecting her, by giving her the life you wanted for our son." Tears ran down his face, froze on his cheeks. "I am sorry," he whispered, "for failing you, for giving up, for wasting 9 years being angry at God and the world and myself. But I am trying now, trying to be better, trying to keep the promises I should have kept." He stood, wiped his face, looked at the graves one last time. "Goodbye, Anna. Goodbye, Jonathan. Rest well. I will see you again someday, but not yet, not for a long time. I have work to do here, a child to raise, a life to build, a promise to keep." He rode back to the cabin, to Sarah, to the future, and he did not look back. Christmas Eve, 1876. The cabin was warm, fire crackling, snow falling outside, soft, quiet, peaceful. Flint and Sarah sat by the hearth. She was reading, a book Martha had given her. Little Women, about sisters and family and finding your place in the world. Flint whittled, a piece of wood, taking shape slowly. A horse. For Sarah. A Christmas gift. Tomorrow Martha would come. Bring food. Spend the day with them. They would eat, talk, laugh, be family. But tonight was just the two of them. Sarah looked up from her book, asked a question. "Do you miss them, your wife and son?" "Every day," Flint said, "but not the way I used to. It does not hurt as much. Does not feel like drowning. Now it just feels like remembering. Like they are part of me, always will be, but they do not own me anymore. Do you think Mama and Papa are together, wherever they are?" "I do," Flint said. "I think everyone we love is waiting for us, watching over us, hoping we live good lives, hoping we find happiness." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Then I am happy here, with you. Is that wrong? Should I be sad forever because they are gone?" "No," Flint said. "Being happy does not mean you have forgotten. It means you are honoring them, living the life they wanted you to live. They would not want you sad. They would want you strong, brave, building something beautiful." Sarah smiled, put down her book, moved to sit beside him. "Thank you," she said, "for saving me, for not leaving me alone, for being my family." Flint put down the carving, put his arm around her. "Thank you," he said, "for saving me, for reminding me what I was living for giving me a reason to wake up every morning and try to be better." They sat in silence, watching the fire, listening to the wind, feeling the warmth, the safety, the love. Outside the snow fell, covering the land, covering the graves, covering the past. Inside, two people who had lost everything held on to each other and found that maybe loss was not the end. Maybe it was just the beginning of something new, something unexpected, something worth fighting for. A family, not by blood, but by choice, by love, by the promises they made and kept. And in a world that was often cruel and cold and unforgiving, that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. Years later, when Sarah was grown, when the ranch was thriving, when the story had become legend, people would ask her about Thomas McAllister. They would ask if he was a hero, if he was brave, if he was someone worth remembering. And she would smile, that same smile her mother used to have, full of warmth and memory and love. He was a man, she would say, just a man. Broken, hurting, lost. But he chose to stand up when everyone else sat down. He chose to fight when everyone else ran. He chose to love when it would have been easier to hate. She would look out at the land, at the ranch they built together, at the horses running free, at the children they had taken in over the years, other orphans, other lost souls, given a home, given hope, given a chance. He kept his promises, she would say, every single one, even when it cost him everything, even when it nearly killed him. He kept them, because that was the kind of man he was. And when people asked what happened to him, when they asked if he was still alive, she would shake her head. He passed 10 years ago, she would say, winter, peaceful, in his sleep. He was 73, lived a good life, a full life, died knowing he had made a difference. We buried him next to Anna and Jonathan, on the hill overlooking the ranch, where he could watch over everything he built, everything he protected, everything he loved. And on his gravestone we carved the words he lived by, the words that defined him. Keep your promises, protect the weak, build something that lasts. Simple words, but they meant everything. She would pause, wipe her eyes, then finish. He was not perfect, made mistakes, had regrets, but he tried every day to be better, to do right, to honor the people he lost by helping the people he found. And in the end, that is all any of us can do. Try, stand up, keep our promises, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard, because that is what makes us human. That is what makes us worthy. That is what makes a life worth remembering. February 1896, 20 years after the trial, 20 years after justice was served. Sarah stood before 5 graves on the hill, her parents, Anna, Jonathan, and Thomas. She was 28 now, married, had 2 children of her own. The ranch had grown, prospered, become one of the most successful in Montana. But she never forgot where it started, never forgot the man who saved her, who raised her, who showed her what it meant to keep your word. She knelt, placed flowers on each grave, spoke quietly. I kept my promise, Papa Flint, she said. I built something, something that lasts, something that helps people just like you taught me. A warm breeze swept across the hilltop, carrying the scent of wildflowers and fresh grass. Behind her, her children played, laughed, ran through the grass, free, safe, loved. And Sarah smiled, because she knew that Thomas McAllister had not just saved her life, he had taught her how to live it, how to love, how to fight, how to stand when others fell, how to keep promises, even the impossible ones, especially the impossible ones, and that lesson, that legacy, would live on, in her children, in her grandchildren, in every person who heard the story and decided to be brave, to be kind, to be someone worth remembering. The wind blew again, and for just a moment Sarah could have sworn she heard a voice, faint, familiar, warm. You did good, little bird, you did real good. She looked up, saw nothing, just sky and clouds and the endless horizon, but she knew he was there, watching, proud, and she whispered back, Thank you, Papa, for everything, for saving me, for loving me, for teaching me what it means to be strong. I will never forget, never. And I will keep my promises, just like you taught me, always. She stood, brushed snow from her coat, turned back toward the valley below. The ranch spread out beneath her, barns and corrals, horses grazing in winter fields, smoke rising from the main house where her children waited. And further down the valley, past the creek, the town of Bear Creek, bigger now than it had been 20 years ago, growing, thriving. On the hill behind her, 5 graves stood watch over it all, 5 names carved in stone, 5 promises kept. The wind carried their stories down through the years, past the children who would never know hunger, past the orphans who would never know loneliness, past the people who would never forget. The last promise, they called it, the promise that changed everything. And on that hilltop in Montana, with snow falling soft around her, Sarah McAllister smiled, because she knew her father was still keeping his promise. Every single day. The end.